Anyhow, so yeah, man, I'm just gonna do a video for whatever, a reaction video. React. We gotta react to this stuff, man. Yes. It's all about awareness. We need to bring awareness to people what's really going on, man. Oh no, we can't do that. No. Anyhow, this video is for my entertainment and education purposes only. Any and everything I say could be wrong. Do your own research, come to your own conclusions. So, we're gonna go back into politics now. Apparently that's the only thing going on, you know, which is whatever. I'm sensing that the natives are getting restless, you know, because there's no big sensational thing going on. And when the natives get restless, they start going after the vulnerable people, the people that are the easy targets, you know, because it's all based in cowardice. Everything is based in cowardice and being a fucking pussy. With so much of all this garbage, it's, you know, let's put these fucking cowards on pedestals and act like that they're really important people when they're really just pieces of shit. You know, this is the way you know, dude, look, I'm Gen X, dude, we Gen Xers, we've already seen all this. Nothing has changed. They always do the same thing. You know, like the millennials and Zoomers, they're only just starting to catch on, you know. And to them, this is all new. This is like it's only just now starting to happen. It's only happening to the millennials and Zoomers. Like the Generation X, we already saw how this is the way it's always been, and this is the way it is now, and this is the way it's always going to be. You put the cowards on pedestals, and then they peacock around swinging their dick, acting like they're some fucking great person when they're just another piece of shit like everybody else. Like, this is the way it's always been, and nothing's changed. But for the millennials and Zoomers, it's this big new thing, you know, breaking news, you know. It's like, no, that's the way it's always been. You're just younger, you know. You're just less experienced in it. It's all new to you. Nothing new, same as it ever was, you know. Anyways, so we're gonna go into politics for now. See, this is the thing, dude, like with politics, okay? So I listen to 2 or 3 different political commentators. So I listen to Black Scout Survival, who is against Trump, right? And I listen to Asmongold, who is like for Trump, right? And this is what's funny, is like Black Scout Survival is like a conservative, okay? And he's against Trump. And then you got Asmongold, who is like a libertarian, and he's for Trump. And he's like Asmongold is like he believes in a lot of liberal stuff, like he believes in gay marriage, and he's a big Bernie Sanders. You know, he is fucking Asmongold's like, he's talking about how he's a real big Bernie Sanders enthusiast, okay? And so Asmongold, being a Bernie Sanders enthusiast, you know, semi-socialist, loves Bernie Sanders, and he's a Trump supporter. And then you've got Black Scout Survival, who's a conservative and is against Trump, right? So this is the political commentary I listen to. And then like Mark Dice. And Mark Dice is kind of like, I don't know, he don't really do that much. Black Scout Survival and Asmongold does more than Mark Dice. Mark Dice just kind of like puts out stuff about the Jews, kind of, and it's like whatever. But all this political commentary, it's all the same shit that they were saying back in 2015 and 2016. You know, complaining about all this transgender shit and transgenders in sports, and like transgender bathroom. They're all saying the same shit that everybody was saying back in 2015 and stuff. Like, it's nothing new, right? But the other thing is, this is the other thing. See, because I come from the streets, right? I come from Skid Row and everything, and so my view is different. Like, if you haven't come from Skid Row, then your perception is going to be different than mine. And there's nothing wrong with that. But of course, your society tells you that there's something wrong with me, right? Because I come from Skid Row. And the thing is see, but if you got to watch the movie They Live. You remember the movie They Live? Here, let me give you some visual prompts to help trigger your memory. Let's see. I have the movie They Live somewhere here, right? Where is it? You remember the movie They Live? Here again, we're going to use the visual aesthetics to really get the point, hit the head on the nail to make my point here about the movie They Live. So I have the movie, but I just don't have it handy. It must be over here. But the movie They Live is basically about a guy who's on Skid Row, right? And the symbolism of the glasses, when John Nada puts on the glasses, the symbolism, if you really think about it, just think about it for 3 seconds. The symbolism of the They Live sunglasses is to get you to look through the eyes of a home bum living on Skid Row. And again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, Like, see, people want to pretend that they don't understand, right? There we go. Let's do the visual. Okay, people want to pretend that they don't understand what this symbolizes. The movie They Live, where you've got John Nada as the main character, and he's a homeless home bum living on the streets. And it's those sunglasses that he's wearing that makes him able to see like what's really going on. And the symbolism of these sunglasses is to get you to, consider the idea of looking through the eyes of a fucking Skid Row home bum. And again, people want to pretend that they don't understand the symbolism regarding these sunglasses and the main character being a bum living on the streets of homelessness and eating out of soup kitchens and shit. See, they want to tell you this is about the Jews. It's about the Jews, right? See, these people, they're total fucking retards, and they choose their retardation. Like Cypher in the movie The Matrix chose ignorance. Remember, he said, ignorance is bliss. See, this is what I'm saying. You got to watch the movie They Live. But you also have to be able to choose free thought over ignorance. And if you choose free thought over ignorance, it's very easy to understand the symbolism with the glasses and the main character being a homeless bum living on the streets and eating out of soup kitchens, etc., etc. And that the glasses symbolize the idea of looking through the eyes of a homeless American. And that's what, this isn't about the Jews, But anyways, stupidity, right? It's everywhere. So we're moving on, We're moving beyond the stupid people. Let them just stay stuck in their retarded idiocy. We gotta power through, right? So so I come from the streets, I was like standing in the soup kitchen line with John Nada, from the movie They Live. Remember the movie They Live. John Nada is the main character. See, I was one of the extras in the movie They Live, standing in the soup kitchen line, actually, truly, walking in the shoes of someone like John Nada, like experiencing it for myself, the reality, right? As opposed to someone who's never experienced it, but claims that they know everything about homelessness and they know all about it, even though they've never walked a mile in the shoes. They don't know nothing. But it doesn't matter because there is no accountability today. It doesn't matter if you don't know anything about something. You can just go on and on about it as though you do, even though you're like totally retarded. And you never have to be held accountable. Nobody's ever going to call you on it because you're too big to fail. You know, like these corporations are too big to fail. Remember back in 2012 with the liberal movement. What did they call it? Occupy Wall Street. Oh, Wall Street's too big to fail. They're the 1%. We are the 99%. Well, now you got all these YouTubers that are too big to fail. They can say anything. They're never held accountable for anything they say. So anyways, so you have this political dichotomy. You've got the liberals versus the conservatives, the left versus the right. You know, it's all the same. They try to act like it's all bullshit. It's all the same, right? And the thing is that it doesn't matter if you're a liberal or a conservative, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, whether you're left or right, the consensus is always the same. The consensus is always the same. So if you're a liberal left, well, you hate the homeless. You hate the John Nadas of the world because they're all a bunch of lazy, mentally ill, drug-addicted, criminal, vagrant degenerates. Now, if you're on the conservative right, you know, you hate the homeless. You hate the John Nadas of the world because they're all lazy, mentally ill, drug-addicted, criminal, vagrant degenerates. So the consensus is the same whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. The consensus is the same. Oh, these John Nada, it doesn't matter. It's the same consensus whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. You understand what I'm saying? The consensus is the same. The John Nadas of the world are all just a bunch of lazy, mentally ill, drug-addicted, criminal, vagrant degenerates who failed to take personal responsibility for their lives through poor life decisions. And if you lean more liberal or you lean more conservative, the consensus is still the same. All the John Nadas of the world, they're all a bunch of lazy, mentally ill, drug-addicted, criminal, vagrant degenerates who failed to take, etc., etc. And the consensus is the same. If you're apolitical, if you're not a Democrat or a Republican, the consensus is the same. The John Nadas of the world, they're all just a bunch of lazy, mentally ill, drug-addicted, criminal, vagrant degenerates who failed to take. If you're a Christian or a Satanist, it doesn't matter. The consensus is the same. All the homeless people, the John Nadas of the world, they're all just lazy, mentally ill. It's always the same. The consensus is always the same. So when we're talking about politics, the consensus is always the same, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or a liberal or a conservative or a left-leaning libertarian or a right-leaning libertarian, or you're apolitical, politically agnostic, or whatever. The consensus is always the same. The John Nadas of the world, they're all just a bunch of lazy, mentally ill, drug-addicted, criminal, vagrant degenerates who failed to take personal, blah, blah, blah. Now, one of the points that I'm trying to get here, see, the conservatives and the liberals, they both pretend. They're always pretending. It's always performative is the new buzz term now. It's all performative. The liberals, the conservatives, they're always pretending, okay? So like, for example, the liberals are always pretending, right? They're always pretending that they care about the downtrodden. But when it comes to the homeless, the liberals and the Democrats, they hate the homeless. Like, it's obvious. And the only reason you wouldn't know this is because you're not looking for it. That's the only reason. And see, society has conditioned you to just completely ignore the John Nadas of the world. So you don't even pay attention. You don't even pay attention to what the liberals and Democrats' view is of the homeless, the John Nadas of the world. But if you were to pay attention, it's very obvious. The liberals and the Democrats hate the homeless. They hate the John Nadas. They totally hate them. They ignore them all the time. And whenever they're not ignoring them, they're constantly after them. And see, I lived in California for 25 years, and I worked for the homeless service provider field for 10 years in California. So I know exactly how the California liberal politicians and libtards and shit, I know exactly what their view is on the homeless, like John Nada. They hate him. They fucking hate him. Okay? But see, the thing is the Republicans are no different. Like, the Republicans also hate the homeless. Okay? Now, when we start getting into performances, the big performance, the left versus the right performance, the big performance, the performative thing. So when we start getting into that, see, the Republicans and the Democrats, they totally pretend when it comes to, the homeless. The John Nada. It's all performative pretending. Okay. So, and a big, massive trend that I've watched since 2015 is Republicans like to pretend that liberals care about the homeless. Like liberals, left-leaning libertarians, see how this gets very complicated. You got to keep it simple. You got the left and the right. The people on the right, the conservatives, they like to pretend that the liberals care about the homeless. But it's totally, obviously the exact opposite. And in reality, the liberals and Democrats hate the homeless more than conservatives do. And conservatives like to pretend that that's not true also. See, the conservatives like to pretend that the conservatives hate the homeless more than the liberals. So really, there's this big undercurrent that's actually, there's more going on beneath the surface than all this surface level political circus going on. It's what's going on behind the scenes that's actually more prevalent, okay? So like, and this is why, for example, Black Scout Survival, he's like a conservative political thing who's against Trump, right? This is why people like him will never talk about homelessness. They never do. And the left is the same. The left, the liberal left, they never talk about homelessness. Like nobody does. But what's interesting is homelessness is like a big, big deal for these guys. And you can tell by their actions and the way they talk. Like the actions of the Republican right is to overtly ignore the subject of homelessness in its entirety, with the exception of the conservative right boldly proclaiming themselves as that they are the biggest haters of the homeless Americans. And they're very proud of this. They're like, we hate the American homeless. And we're the biggest. We hate the American homeless more than the liberals. Those libtards are always caring about the homeless all the time. But see, that's the biggest lie. Those are two major lies, and they're constantly pushing these two lies. The first of those two lies is that the conservative right hates the homeless more than the liberal left. That's the first lie. Because the conservative right has nothing on the liberal left when it comes to hatred and discrimination and prejudice towards the homeless. There is nobody that is more prejudiced and discriminatory and hateful towards the homeless than the liberal left. And so the conservative right does this out of, they're very insecure. They like to be like, they want to be the ones that hate the homeless. See how this, but this is all below the surface. Below the surface, the conservative right is jealous because the conservative right wants to be the ones that are the biggest haters of the U.S. homeless population. Okay, and the liberal left is always pretending that they don't hate the homeless, But it's all you got to do is just stop for 3 seconds and just think about it and look at it. It's totally obvious the liberal left hates the homeless more than the conservative right does. And so the conservative right is jealous, right? Because the liberal left hates the homeless more than the conservative right does. And so out of their insecurity and jealousy, the conservative right is always proclaiming themselves that we hate the homeless. And they're always making this false allegation that the liberal left is coddling the homeless and is doing all this stuff to help the homeless and enable the homeless, when in actuality it's a complete lie, and it's actually, if anything, it's an inversion of that. And the conservative right knows this on their subconscious level, but your average person doesn't use their conscious mind, they're using their subconscious mind, and so they don't have to, they don't care. They're driven by carelessness. Nothing really matters, And so this truth that I'm illustrating is never talked about. It's always hidden. It's one of these big dirty secrets of the society that you live in, right? The big dirty secret, man. They live. It's the dirty secret, right? It's totally it's insane. And so this is what you have going on. And you can think that this doesn't matter, but the thing is if it doesn't matter, then they wouldn't be hiding it all the time. It wouldn't be suppressed and hidden below the surface. It would be in the surface, it would be part of the discussion, like liberals would be transparent and say, conservatives, we hate homeless more than conservatives do. But see, that's part of the liberals' game is to hide their hypocrisy. And there's no bigger hypocrisy going on with the liberal left than their prejudice towards the homeless. Because the liberal left, their whole ideology is based on rejecting prejudice and rejecting discrimination. But there's no group of people that's more discriminatory and prejudiced towards the homeless than the liberal left. So this is why they hide this, because it's the liberal left's dirtiest secret. The liberal left is always proclaiming how they're against prejudice and they're against discrimination. Meanwhile, the liberal left is more prejudiced and discriminatory towards the homeless than any other person you can imagine. So that's a total contradiction. See, this is why the liberal left has to continue this facade. Because if the liberal left gets exposed that they are prejudiced and discriminatory towards the homeless, well, then their whole, it dismantles their entire illusion of how the liberal left is championing, equality, and the liberal left is championing opposition to discrimination and prejudice. No, they're more prejudiced towards the homeless, and they're more discriminatory towards the homeless. I mean, they're more discriminatory towards the homeless than our country was discriminatory and prejudiced towards fucking black people during the slavery. It's like that bad. And then the other ironic thing about this is that the conservative right refuses to admit this. So basically, it's this incestuous, perverted incestuous relationship between the conservative and the liberals. Because both the conservative and the liberal, they both have this extreme hatred towards the homeless, towards the homeless, like John Nada. But they don't want to admit it to themselves or each other. But it is it's the most orgasmic part of their perverted incestuous relationship, is as long as they both continue to hate and ignore the homeless, that's what feeds this orgasmic tension where they're always fighting and there's always tension, and it's all based in the perverted like fucking hatred towards the poorest people in America. And they all are constantly lying to each other, even though they're supposedly opposing forces. The one thing that they all orgasmically come together on, whether they're conservative or liberal, they both orgasmically come together in their mutual hatred for the John Nadas of the world, the homeless of the country. But they never admit it. They're always going on and on. Like when I listen to the conservative Republican commentary, whenever homelessness comes up, the conservative is always boisterously proclaiming themselves the biggest hater of the homeless, and it's always like this fake live action role play, like performative, theatrical action. It's basically like when you have two animals, because really we're really, this whole thing is based in like animal. I mean, we're not even talking about humans anymore. Like there's no reason to even treat them like human. All their actions are based in the animal instincts, where it's like when you have two animals that want to mate, they kind of fight. They're doing this performative like fighting and kind of like tension before they end up fucking each other. That's what's going on with the Republican and Democrat. And Republicans and Democrats are always going to orgasmically come together in like an incestuous orgy over their shared lust to continually grind the homeless poor into the dirt. And they love it. They love it. Like they get off on it. Like it's a real, kind of like how a serial killer gets a sexual perversion, a sexual, meets some kind of weird sexual desire by killing people. This is how the Republican and Democrat, they're like super, like they get this sexual gratification off of ignoring and hating the homeless poor. They literally do. That's why they're always arguing and complaining, but it's always argument, complain, argue, complain between the Democrats and the Republicans, and neither of them stand for anything. Because like if Republicans actually stood for constitutional rights, they would be looking at the constitutional violations that are constantly imposed upon the homeless, and they don't. See, they only care about constitutional rights as it concerns them, because it's all based in this weird like incestuous perversion of self grandiosity and everything is just like, it's not about anyone else. Like with the conservative, that conservative doesn't care about your constitutional rights. That conservative cares about their own constitutional rights. And as long as their own constitutional rights are upheld, it doesn't matter what's going on. As long as their own. That's it. So if homeless people's rights are being ground into the, as like very, very well illustrated in the movie They Live, the conservative isn't going to care any more than the liberal is going to care. The liberal doesn't care, and the conservative, like neither of them do. And so this is this constant lie, and it's always going on under the surface. So you don't see the big surface level theatrics of all this. They mention it in passing. Again, like I said, the conservative, like Salty Cracker, is always going to proclaim themselves like that they hate the homeless, and then accuse the liberal of loving the homeless. And when in reality, like nobody hates the homeless more than the liberal left. And the liberal left know this. They're not stupid. And the conservative right, see, they both know what they're doing. Again, this is all just an incestuous dance. It's just a dance. It's just a dance, like, because in the end, it's like a high school dance. It's all just stupid shit. And in the end, it's going to be an orgasmic fucking, like a drunken fucking incestual, perverted, orgasmic, thing where all the poopy people that don't fit in at the high school dance, they all get left behind. And that's part of the sexual gratification is, look, we're all getting what we want, and all the nerds and the people that don't fit in at the high school dance, they're all not having fun, and we're all having an orgy and fucking, this is the way politics works, dude. This is the way this works. Like, liberals don't care about equality. Conservatives don't care about the Constitution, and that's really what it is. Liberals care about their own equality for themselves, but people that are suffering inequality, liberals don't care about that. And no one suffers more inequality than the homeless Americans. And liberals know this, conservatives know this, everybody knows this, but nobody talks about it. This is all suppressed. This is all under the surface. So meanwhile, the surface stuff is all, Black Scout Survival is going to say this, Asmongold's going to say that, Hassan Piker's going to say this, you name it. Mark Dice is going to say that. But it's all just like it's just a big gay, faggot, high school dance, like retarded bullshit. Like, which is insane because, high school, you could kind of understand, even though it's gay and it's retarded and it's stupid. High school is going to kind of be like that because they're teenagers. But we're talking about adults, dude. We're talking about adults that are supposedly successful, that are supposedly like, big fucking, big dudes doing big stuff, swinging big dicks, when really they're just acting like immature high school students. And then it just goes on and on. So this is politics, right? And because all this stuff here is all under the surface, nobody ever talks about it. Nobody plans on ever talking about it. This is all part of the dance. The high school dance is to make sure to not talk about this and make sure to totally ignore these guys because they're the nerds. They're the geeks that don't fit in at the high school dance. We're all the what do you call them? What did we used to call them? What did Gen Xers call them? Shit. I get that term so old I can't even remember it anymore. But like the preps and anyways, this is how all this works, But no, you really need to go back and watch the movie They Live. I know everybody's been telling you the movie They Live is about the Jews. But you see, what it's about, there's a reason that the two main characters are homeless Americans. There's a reason. So anyway, but you can't snap people out of their stupor if they choose to be stupid, right? And so that's the problem we face. But anyways, I just wanted to talk about this because it gets really old watching this fake dance. The yuppies, that was the term I was thinking about, the yuppies. See, the high school dance is all about the yuppies and all the nerds and geeks and outcasts. It's not about them. High school dance is about the yuppies and that's what politics is. It's all the yuppies getting together, acting like they got something to say, acting like there's some big important shit to talk about. And they're always dragging homeless in some form or other, but it's always the same. It's like, oh, these homeless people are all the lazy, mentally ill, drug addicted. And this is part of them getting their perverted, like, sexual gratification out of dehumanizing other people to make themselves feel superior. It's all part of the perverted, orgasmic, like, sexual gratification of minimizing other people to make themselves feel superior and more important. And it all goes back to superiority. You know, this is what it's always been when you're talking about like World War II and the Jews versus the Germans. Hitler was all about the superior race and all this, and this was what it was about with the blacks and everything. The whites were superior to the black, and it's always, but there is no more superiority complex phenomena going on than the homeless. Everybody thinks they're superior to the homeless. The homeless are all inferior. They're just a bunch of lazy, mentally ill, drug addicted, criminal, vagrant, degenerates, on and on and on. So, yeah, and so all this politics is all bullshit, right? It is because the yuppies dominate everything. The yuppies dominate all the political discourse. That's it. It's all the yuppies. So, like, I don't know, you ever watched the movie Greasers? You had the Socias and then you had the Greasers, right? You had the Socias and the Greasers. And the Socias were the yuppies. And the Greasers were like the real people. See, the yuppies have always dominated everything. This has always been the case long before you and I ever came about. And like I said, I'm Gen X. All us Gen Xers, we already saw it. We already saw how the yuppies, they dominate everything. You can't win against these guys. The only thing you can do is watch them. You just be patient and watch them, because they always crash and burn. They're always crashing out and burn eventually. Sometimes it takes a long time, but eventually all these motherfuckers, they just crash and burn, and they end up eating they end up eating just as much shit as you or me or anyone else. Everybody's gonna eat fucking crow. We all got it coming. These people that act and think and talk as though they're special and different, watch them. Just be patient and watch them. They all just come crashing down like a fucking Epstein Island fucking, redacted file fucking phenomena fucking. It's all the same. They always crash out. They always crash. All these yuppies, they all end up getting caught on some Epstein fucking island somewhere, and then they all got to run damage control and start running around redacting files and manipulating facts and fucking and creating like distractions, and the distraction is always the same. They always want to distract you. Oh, that homeless guy was dumping a hot bucket of diarrhea on some poor, innocent, middle-class yoga instructor. That's all. The damage control is always the same, and they never stop. I mean, and a lot of times they don't stop is because they're so engulfed in their own lies that they just believe their own lies. They just believe their own lies. Oh, there's some homeless person dumping a hot bucket of diarrhea on some innocent upper middle class yoga instructor somewhere. I know it. These yuppies, they're so full of shit, dude. And that's what it is. That's all it is. So anyways, no, man, but I'm just from the street, man. I just come off the soup kitchen line. I don't really know what's going on, you guys. I just came off the soup kitchen line, and my ship has come in. Now I have this wonderful place that I live in. I'm no longer homeless and eating out of the soup kitchen line. Now I'm breaking rocks and shoveling shit and just living the dream. But I don't know anything, you guys. I don't know what's going on, man. So that's the way I see it, though. Like, if I were put on my glasses, man, put on your they live glasses, man. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of see, I just see things differently than your average, person on the internet that's doing commentary on stuff. Like, the way I see it's a little different than pretty much your average YouTube channel, BitChute channel, Odyssey, Rumble, Twitch, I see it a little bit different. I see it kind of more from the eyes of like of this, you know. That's how I see it. But like I said, they're gonna tell you this is about the Jews. That's what this is about. And it's like, you believe whatever you want, you know. All I'm offering you is the truth. All I'm offering you is the truth. You know. So anyways, that'll do it for this episode of another Angry Hobo channel with your host, the Angry Hobo. Remember, stay tuned, stay informed, stay salty, and monetize.